Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Have you ever just typed a website address, like google.com, into your browser and bam, the page appears? It feels instant, right? But what really happens in those few moments? It's actually a fascinating journey with a ton of steps. Let's look at this diagram and follow the path. Step 1, you type the URL, it all starts simple enough. You type www.google.com into your browser's address bar and hit enter. Step 3, checking the cache, the very first thing your browser does is check its own cache. Has it visited google.com recently? Does it have a saved copy of the page or the IP address? If it finds what it needs, a cache hit, it can potentially skip a lot of steps. But usually, for a fresh request or after a while, it's a cache failed, and we move on. Steps 1, 2, 4, the DNS lookup. Since the browser likely doesn't know the IP address for www.google.com offhand, it needs to find it. This is where the domain name system, DNS, comes in. It's like the internet's phone book. Your browser asks the operating system. The OS asks the router. The router asks your ISP, Internet Service Provider. The ISP's DNS server starts the lookup process, often starting with root name servers, then TLD, top-level domain name servers, for .com, and finally the authoritative name server for google.com. This authoritative name server knows the IP address for www.google.com. It sends that IP address back through the chain, ISP-router-OS-browser. Step 4, initiating the TCP connection. Now that your browser has the IP address, it needs to establish a reliable connection with the Google server. This happens using the TCP three-way handshake. Your browser sends a SYN, synchronize, request to the server. The server responds with a SYN-ACK, synchronize acknowledge. Your browser sends an ACK, acknowledge, back to the server. Handshake success. At this point, a stable connection is established, ready for data transfer. Step 5, sending the HTTP request. With the connection open, your browser sends an HTTP request to the Google server. This request is basically saying, hey Google server, I want to get the page at / the homepage, for www.google.com. www-server response. The Google server receives the request, processes it, and sends back a server response. This response includes the status code, like 200 OK, and, most importantly, the HTML content of the Google homepage. Steps 6, 7, 8, the browser renders the page. Now the browser has the HTML, but it's not a visual page yet. The browser engine gets to work. Step 6, parse HTML. The rendering engine starts parsing the HTML document. It reads the HTML and builds a DOM tree, document object model, which is a logical representation of the page's structure. If the HTML references CSS files, the browser also parses CSS stylesheet and builds a CSSOM tree, CSS object model. The browser combines the DOM and CSSOM trees to create a render tree, which contains the visual elements in the order they should appear. Step 7, load JavaScript. If the HTML references JavaScript files, the browser's JS engine fetches and executes that JavaScript. JavaScript can modify the DOM and CSSOM, affecting the final page. Step 8, painting. Finally, the browser goes through the painting process, drawing the elements from the render tree onto the screen pixel by pixel, applying styles, images, and layout. And then, you see the Google homepage. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.